Amatulia Megavanen and welcome to Quenta Ambar. Who was King Bladorthin? Well, he was a renowned ruler of a kingdom in Middle-earth, sometime in the latter half of the Third Age. We also know that he placed a sizable order from the dwarves of Erebor, but it was never sent. All of this information hails from the Hobbit, and remains to be the only account of Bladorthin's existence in any of Tolkien's works. A passage including him reads as follows. The spears that were made for the armies of the great King Bladorthin, long since dead. Each had a thrice-forged head, and their shafts were inlaid with cunning gold, but they were never delivered or paid for. From this we can assume that he either died before the spears could be sent, or Smaug attacked Erebor, stopping them from ever being delivered. But what we do know for definite is that he died long before the events of The Hobbit. Do we know anything else about Bladorthin? I'm afraid not, at least not directly. But in order to discover more about him, we need to analyse the little information given by Tolkien. First of all, Bladorthin's name has been described as clearly gnomish by Tolkien himself. Now before you have a fit, gnomes aren't a new race in Middle-earth. It is in fact an early term used by Tolkien to describe what he would later call the Noldor, a clan of elves. The name Bladorthin has then been attributed to be a combination of the words Blador, meaning wide open country, and Thin, meaning grey. This would make Bladorthin mean one of these three translations, either the Grey Country, Grey Plains Fae, or the Grey Master of the Plains, which are particularly interesting names. We'll get onto that a bit later. Many would believe that because Bladorthin is an elvish name, he must be an elf. This however cannot be true, due to the fact that all elven kings of Middle-earth are accounted for at that time. But what about the Avari? I hear you cry. I agree, this would prove to be an interesting theory, however, the elves of the east would definitely not use forms of Noldori to name their monarchs. We also have to remember that the Númenóreans also named their kings in such a fashion, and they had a great influence over a majority of Middle-earth. Because of this, we can assume that Bladorthin was a man. Now, where could Bladorthin reside? Well, an easy option would be to say that he was once a king of Dale. However, I must also refute this idea, as the rulers of Dale before Bard are described as lords of Dale, and not kings. Also, why would a Northman king have an elven name? It doesn't make much sense when you think about it. What are the other contenders for the realm of Bladorthin then? Well, there is one other named realm that fits the aforementioned requirements, a land that was once under Gondorian control, and therefore would continue its naming conventions for its monarchs, using Elvish. A land that has definitely been trading with the kingdoms of Rhovanion. Dorwinion. Well, there it is. King Bladorthin was likely a ruler of the equally scarcely mentioned Dorwinion, located along the eastern shores of the Sea of Rhûn. This is definitely the most likely theory in my opinion, as it fulfills all the previously set criteria, and I wouldn't blame you for treating this as the truth. But now we get to dive in further into Bladorthin's name. Now we understand that his name either means Grey Country, Grey Plains Fae, or Grey Master of the Plains. What exactly do they mean? Well, the meaning of Grey Country is particularly obvious. It means Grey Country. Grey Plains Fae, however, is very interesting. Now, Grey Plains means plains, and Fae is actually, earlier on in Tolkien's Legendarium, a Fae is a sprite or a fairy, guardian of the world. Now, you might be thinking, why on earth would a king have the equivalent of pixie in his name? Well, we got to dive further into early versions of Tolkien's works. Originally, Bladorthin was the name for Gandalf. So Grey Plains Fae might mean Grey Guardian of the World, which definitely suits Gandalf in terms of Elvish. So the terms of his name might have nothing to do with where he actually lived. On the other hand, you could say that his other translatable name, Grey Master of the Plains, could mean that he definitely doesn't live in Dorwinion, because Dorwinion is anything but plains. Because if you look on maps made by Tolkien, Dorwinion is quite hilly or mountainous, and plains would further suit other areas of Rovanion. But you can believe whatever you want, as Tolkien hasn't really addressed this at all. I personally believe that he may have just forgot about the existence of Bladorthin within his works, and therefore didn't elaborate on his character. But you can believe any other theory you want, as long as it's not stupid. And goodbye.